Yo, what's up guys? Today, I'm going to be showing you what I think is the new meta for calm, cool, and collected builds. I even managed to solo kill Wotan with no going into fight for your life. I posted the video. You guys don't have to watch that. It's like 17 minutes long, but it's there and it's real. Anyways, this is just going to be a build breakdown plus the playstyle at the end. There's definitely some important tips you need to consider while playing. So check that out if that's what you think you need. By the way, I think I'm a little bit sick, so ignore my voice, but let's get into it. Before we start, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more Borderlands 3, Mayhem 4 Zane builds, and join the Zane Nation Discord. Link will be in a pinned comment down below. So, I'm going to be showing you guys what I think the new meta for Calm Cool Collected builds is going to start to look like. I used a couple different strategies during my actual solo Wotan Takedown, but this video is going to go over the stock version of this build. Like I said a second ago, I think the playstyle is also very important, so there's going to be some great tips after I break down the build. Be sure to check that out if you ever run into any trouble with this build. So first, we're actually going to get into the gear. The main piece of gear I'm running is a stopgap shield. You can see on the screen mine has shield boosters, but the boosters aren't 100% necessary. I definitely suggest farming for one with boosters. They're very helpful. But I'm pairing this shield with distributed denial. So when your barrier goes down, you and your allies near yourself get 5-second immunity. It's super clutch. In Mayhem 3, we always use booster shields with distributed denial, like Big Boom Blaster. The boosters on the Big Boom Blaster help keep your shield and health topped off, depending on what rolls you had for Calm Cool Collected. But this time, we're just adding insane layers of invulnerability with the stopgaps. When our barrier goes down, you get the 5-second invulnerability. When your shield breaks, that's another 5 seconds. And then with Calm Cool Collected, refilling your shields and your action skills, you can see how you can start to abuse this a bunch of times. Like I said though, look out for stopgaps with boosters on them, because your barrier will also get the boosters too. On to the artifact. I want to bring this up real quick because if you watched my Wotan fight earlier, you saw I was using a snowdrift, but for most of the time of this build, you're going to be running an icebreaker. Icebreaker is easily probably the best artifact for this build, especially while mobbing. I wore one the entire time until I got to Wotan, but once I got to Wotan, I think a snowdrift is much better. We're also using violent momentum in this build, so sliding before some of the Cutsman beams connect will give you some extra damage. But like obviously you can't freeze Wotan himself, so the Icebreaker isn't at least going to help us kill him. For the class mod, I always choose the Cold Warrior with Calm Cool Collected builds. A lot of people choose the Executor, and that's fine. But I like getting a ton of points in Synchronicity. Mine has 4 out of 5, so that gives us 9 points total in Synchronicity. Even if you have a purple class mod with a bunch of points in Synchronicity, that will get you the most damage by far. Since we're playing CCC, we always have all our action skills up, and that's enough said. For the grenade, I'm running a piss grenade. We're using drone delivery to get these out there, and I just want to say I think this is probably the best grenade in Mayhem 4. I've experimented with a lot of grenades, and a lot of them don't really scale into Mayhem 4, so piss grenades seem like the go-to for now. Moving on to the weapons, I want to say real quick, for those of you who did watch my Wotan kill earlier, you probably saw me using the protuberance a little bit. Now that is not a stock weapon for this build, but Wotan has that huge shield you need to delete, and out of all my weapons, none of them really delete bosses' shields as good as well as the protuberance. So maybe pack something like the protuberance to get rid of shields really well. Even a shot cutsman could be nice. But I just wanted to mention that it's not one of the required weapons for this build. So let's get into the 4 weapons that I actually use with this build. First, we gotta mention the Maggi. So many people love this pistol. It does great work. The fact that it shoots 6 pellets keeps brain freeze up all the time. Now what's super notable about mine is the anointment I'm using. When our barrier is up, which is all the time, plus 60% accuracy and 30% crit damage. The accuracy will tighten up your reticle, and what it'll do is turn your Maggi into a brain freeze sniper rifle because the accuracy is super clutch for medium. even slightly long distance, and the Maggi is your main, like, not only does it do damage, but it is the ultimate utility gun in this build. You'll literally be able to freeze anyone you shoot in the head 4 times with a Maggi, and it's that simple. The second gun I'm using is a gun often used by a Twitch streamer named Kai TW. Shout out to him, I got this idea from him. I'll post his link in a pinned comment down below. You guys should definitely check him out. But this gun is the Dictator. This thing is a literal tank. You can literally freeze 3 to 5 enemies at once if they're all close enough to each other. But where this gun shines is taking down enemies at a shotgun's range. Usually I use my Maggi to freeze them up close and deplete some of their shield a little bit. Then I'll swap over to my Fire Dictator to finish them off, and it's super great. Third, this gun is literally amazing. I'm using a Brainstormer with plus 50% cryo damage while Sentinel is active. The anointment on this gun is probably required. It's literally what makes this gun so good. It will freeze enemies almost every time you shoot it, a whole mag at someone a couple times. I usually pull this out when I start to feel a little bit overwhelmed, and with the cryo anointment, you can literally melt shields and armor on one weapon. It's insane. Get the Brainstormer and get the cryo anointment. And finally, for our last gun, I'm using a corrosive Cutsman. The Cutsman absolutely shreds. I don't gotta explain this one too much, but one cool trick I want to point out is if you aim at a mob of enemies at about their crit spots, you can freeze 3 to 5 enemies just like the Dictator. Just get your Cutsman in whatever element depending where you're fighting. On to the skills. I'm using the Sentinel and the Barrier. Augments for the Sentinel are Bad Dose and Static Field. Both of these just help power you up a little bit. And I have to say, I did notice Static Field doing more work than it used to. I think this was probably because of the buff, but I feel like I definitely noticed my shield filling up, and it didn't seem like it was the natural recharge from the shield. I think it was this augment. I'll do more tests with it. And for the Barrier, we're running the All-Rounder and the Detainment Field. I have to point out how important the Detainment Field is. It stops 9 out of 10 melee attacks, and there's a lot of melee attackers between the dogs, the badass heavyweights, and those shielded Maliwan guys. Don't skimp on this ability. Even the Valkyrie that tries to melee you, I stopped a couple times with the Detainment Field. It's super clutch. So in the Barrier tree, we're using the Capstone Distributed Denial. This is literally insane with the Stopgap Shield like I mentioned earlier. When your Barrier times out, you and even allies who are close enough both become immune for 5 full seconds. What makes this so amazing for Calm Cool Collected is when your Barrier happens to time out because you couldn't freeze anyone, you get a full 5 seconds to freeze an enemy and get your action skills instantly back, on top of just making you super tanky with literally 2 layers of stopgaps. The main other thing I want to mention that you guys probably noticed is I'm actually not running Adrenaline. Now, I used to always run this skill, but I just kind of don't think there's a point. Most of the time, we're chaining our action skills anyway, and like I said, when your Barrier goes down, you can get them back up easily. It's extremely rare we aren't cheating on cooldown somehow. Of course it happens, but you can always just hide behind cover and wait 10 seconds for them to come back. The survivability skills that I picked otherwise, I think are more important over Adrenaline for the overall consistency. One skill in particular that I'm running now that I never ran before was Rise to the Occasion, especially with up to 10 seconds of stopgap immunity. This gives you more than enough time to regenerate the health that you're missing. So other than that change, we just picked all the good skills in this tree. Just copy it exactly. On to the drone tree. This is our other main tree. Violent momentum is extremely important to have access to, especially like I said when I switched to a Snowdrift for the Wotan fight. This skill gives us a ton of extra damage. It's also really important to get death follows close, but besides that, we're using drone delivery for our piss grenades. That's another 20% damage every 15 seconds. And we split our other 5 points between Salvation and Violent Speed. I think both of these skills are extremely important. Salvation is a must. I think Violent Speed is much better now that the damage scaling with momentum is better. But other than that, it's definitely just like a good utility skill in general to be able to move faster. In the clone tree, we got 5 points in Synchronicity and 5 points in Borrowed Time. Both of these are super great because our action skills are always up. Synchronicity probably gives us the highest damage boost in this build, and I have to say that borrowed time is probably necessary. I was running Donnybrook at first when I was experimenting today, but borrowed time is extremely clutch and it just makes everything run so much smoother, especially with the buffs. It gives so much extra action skill time. Anyways guys, that's the build. I want to take a moment to mention some things about the playstyle. If you think you're already good with the playstyle, then go ahead and skip this part. But if you need a couple pointers, definitely listen. Honestly, there might be a tip in here, even if you are good. So just listen up. The first thing is, you need to know where enemy crit spots are. Not only will it boost your damage for critting enemies, but it's extremely easy to just aim at the right spot once you know exactly where it is on every enemy. I'm not running any cryo weapons because element matching will always get you more damage using fire on flesh, shock on shields, corrosive on armor, but it's extremely easy to just aim at the right spot like I said. So learn the crit spots. For example, I don't even shoot a heavyweight unless I'm shooting the ball on their back. Not only will this freeze them almost instantly with a Maggi every time, but they also explode after 2 mags from a Maggi. So aim for crit spots. Also keep in mind, even though you can't freeze a boss, if you can shoot their crit spot, you can refresh your action skill cooldowns with Calm, Cool, and Collected. Brain Freeze will count towards CCC as if you froze them, even though you're not, so keep that in mind. Now the next major tip I have is to time your stopgap immunities. When my barrier went down, I would literally count to 5 in my head, so I know exactly how long I can shoot for, and the second I need to start running away to get under cover, or the second I need to really go for a freeze to refresh my action skills. Anytime your barrier goes down, you don't get the stopgap visual on your screen, so just count to 5. It's super easy, and I did it all the time. It's super practical. It's like a super practical tip. And then the last thing, don't jump. I know this sounds weird, but your main weakness is your feet. You're always carrying your barrier, and the only way enemies can really hurt you is splash damage getting under your feet. I know you guys saw me sliding around a lot in my Wotan fight, but that was to avoid the bullets altogether. Keep your feet on the ground. Don't let splash damage get in, or else you won't be able to refresh your action skills. Just keep jumping to a minimum. Anyways, guys, that is a full breakdown and a full guide to what I think the Mayhem 4 Calm, Cool, and Collected builds are going to evolve into. This build was really good for me during the takedown. Like I said, I managed to solo Wotan, I think on my second attempt, and the first attempt I didn't have the protuberance. I do want to mention, it wasn't my second attempt all day. I was experimenting with a lot of stuff. Like I said, I didn't even have borrowed time the first time. But once I finally came to this build, I got all the way to Wotan without dying in both attempts, and then I died to Wotan the first time because I didn't have a good gun to take down his shields. So keep all that in mind. And yeah, guys, that's the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe for more Borderlands 3, Mayhem 4, Zane builds, and join the Zane Nation Discord already. We want to hang out with all the Zane mains in there. See you guys next time. I'm out.